preceding week was full of very interesting activities, and for residents of the Federal Capital Territory, it was a relieving one following the gradual disappearance of long queues at different fuel stations in the territory. Welcome to Reporter's Diary. I'm Chikodnaka Easy. And joining me today is our correspondent, Ungusu Uji. How would you talk about the preceding week? What were your experiences? Could you just recount some of them?
Yeah, it was very interesting, very hectic, of course. And the week for me started with a visit to a rural community, and then during the course of the week, we also witnessed protests and several other reports within and around the Federal Capital Territory that we had to cover. And as usual, it was interesting doing the job.
Now, Anagada is one of the rural communities in Gwagwalada, a satellite town of the territory where our correspondent visited in the course of the week. Here, Ungusu Uji brings us a behind-the-scenes report on how life is in Anagada.
It's another day on the news rounds. Time to get the gist on what's happening in and around the Federal Capital Territory. The rest of the crew and I headed out to a rural community called Anagada in Gwagwalada Area Council. I'm standing here at the entrance to Anagada community, and from here I'll be proceeding into the village to get a hands-on experience of what it feels like living in Anagada right here in Gwagwalada Area Council. Come along with me. We are welcomed by some members of the community who lead us to the chief's palace. Chief Al-Hassan Musa is a soft-spoken man. He receives us warmly and speaks on issues dear to the hearts of people in Anagada.
My name is Alhaji Al-Hassan Musa, villager of Anagada. You are welcome.
Thank you very much. This community has a lot of agrarian activities going on. The residents farm lots of yam, watermelon and garden melon. Everyone in Anagada seems to love eating watermelon, and the sight of children stuffing their faces with chunks of the fruit is absolutely heartwarming. At one compound, we meet a family that processes melon seeds for sale, and they take us through the procedure. Of course, we get to try our hands on the job. I'm standing here in the middle of Anagada community. We've seen the village chief, we've seen the children, we've seen the women, and it's generally a very interesting place to be. And the people here are warm, they are welcoming, the community received us with open arms, and they've been very, very willing to take us on a tour of their village. They're quite enterprising too. The women here are engaged in all kinds of small-scale businesses. The men are very hard-working farmers, and all they are asking for is that the government provide them with the basic necessities of life so that they'll be able to achieve their full potentials. The people here say they need better roads, more schools, and improved water supply. All very busy communities. We're still going around the community when it starts raining. Right now, we have to take shelter here in the LEA primary school, and we'll stay here for a while till it stops raining and we can continue our journey or tour around Anagada. We managed to make a dash back to the car.
You're on your own. Don't put the door by yourself.
The downpour signals the end of our visit. Time to get back to the office. The reports from Anagada will be packaged with hopes that they will make an impact on the residents. For me, the memories from this rural community, now saved in my reporter's diary, continue to linger on.
So what could you say about the traditional ways of the people living in Anagada community?
Yeah, Anagada is a quite a rustic rural community, and mostly agrarian people, as you can see from the report. And the people still committed to traditions and ways of life and ways of doing business too that they've been doing for a long time. For instance, when we visited the chief of Anagada, we all had to sit on the floor. The chief alone is permitted to sit on a chair, which is his throne, and every other person, the members of his cabinet, the other elders of the village, and his visitors have to sit on the rug, on the floor, and that is how it is done in Anagada. And I guess in several other traditional places around FCT and around, I've noticed that visitors to a chief have to sit on the rug at his feet while he alone sits majestically on his throne. We also noticed in Anagada too that the people are very hard-working farmers. They farm all manner of crops: yams, maize, watermelon, lots and lots and lots of watermelon. In fact, so almost everybody in Anagada eating watermelon. And then for the melon that is used to prepare egusi soup, these people are also very proficient in preparing and processing the melon seeds, and we are taking through the procedure involved in processing the melon before it's turned into egusi soup. It was quite interesting being in.
Yes, that makes it even more cheaper.
Yes, it's very cheap.
I guess.
Yes, very cheap in that community.
Perhaps I would like to visit this community and at least have a feel or a taste of how the egusi soup might look like.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So, you know, most times when we visit these communities to do our rural reports and to get development issues in their areas, and we hope that you can impact the lives of these people and by your report. But sometimes you end up being impacted yourself. You learn so many things. You learn the benefits of working hard, the benefits of entrepreneurship. You learn the benefits of culture, of tradition, of even homeliness and neighborliness, and the spirit of the communal spirit that still exists in rural areas that is lacking in many of our urban areas. And that's one of the some of the very important things we learn when we go on some of these visits to communities in the FCT. I
guess it's an interesting one. A visit to such community could be a lasting one in the memory of anybody.
Definitely.
It's somewhere any person would like to visit, even now or in future. We shall be taking more issues after this break. Stay with us.
It's every weekday of news from the grassroots. Stories others ignore, yet stories that are important to you.
Salatu here tells me it's going to be difficult, but she has to be hopeful.
We engage those who administer the Federal Capital Territory and capture development issues right in the center of the capital city.
This is a CCTV camera on the Wuse Mabuchi Road that is not connected to the source of power.
We are on the streets of the nation's capital, where the news breaks and a lot goes on.
Spending several hours in traffic gridlock in a journey ordinarily would have taken up to 20 minutes has not changed.
We also report from neighboring communities, sharing boundaries with the Federal Capital Territory.
Standing right inside Capital Market, situated in Maraba.
It's Abuja Reports on AIT, 6:30 p.m. local time, with the lead stories trending on our Facebook page and Twitter handle.
It's not very rare to find couples who, in a bid to survive and make ends meet, take up jobs in different locations. How they face the challenges that come with living apart remains a question that this report might find answers to. Take a listen.
For several years, Anthony Okubo lived and worked in Anambra State, southeast Nigeria, while his wife worked in Abuja, the nation's capital. Anthony says taking the decision to stay apart was difficult, but an extra income was important.
So it's becoming so hectic for me. There was nothing I could do, because if there's no job, one cannot keep a family. So I have to maintain my job and maintain my family as well. So it was one and nothing.
Many Nigerians are, however, insistent that separation by work shouldn't be an option for couples.
It is not advisable at all, because family is very, very important. Me as I am now, I can resign in my work in order to take proper care of my family. I prefer my happy home, despite the financial level. When there is a happy, my wife is happy, my children is happy, and I don't have enough money. It's better for me than I have huge amount of money and my family will be in trouble.
For their Kubas, Regular telephone conversations and weekend visits helped to fill the gap.
If I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do after morning devotion is just to give her a call. My love, how are you doing? Are you fine? How is your environment? All those things. So that's what I used to do. By the maybe Fridays, I'll take permission, take a casual leave, go back, rush down to Abuja, then go back on Sunday evening to make sure I resume work on Monday morning.
Their Kubas were recently blessed with quadruplets. The husband and wife have now decided to come together to raise the kids. After all, there's a backlog of monetary savings already from the sacrifice of working and living apart.
What can you say about the dangers of living apart?
Well, couples generally, it is agreed and generally accepted that couples should live together. After all, when a man and a woman decide to get married, they have to stay together as one. But sometimes circumstances have to separate them, not because they don't want to be together, but because they must survive. That's the economic constraints. And you have couples living in different states, even different countries because of their work demands. And many people are not really fond of this. Even couples forced to live apart, most times they are not happy with the situation. They would rather stay together, and they are quick to call the problem areas or the problem points when couples are living apart. They talk of loneliness, they talk of the break in communication, which may lead to other disagreements that follow. After all, when there's a communication gap, all kinds of disagreements can come. And they don't talk of problems of fidelity, because when couples are not together, you're not sure what the other couple is doing, or the other half of your better half is doing in the community or the state where he is. So this is some of the challenges that couples living apart can face. But then again, sometimes man must work, as they say. So if you have to live apart, I guess most times they just try to make the best use of it. And sometimes couples don't come out to live apart. Sometimes they live together, and one of them may get transferred to another location. So it may not be intentional that you just leave your husband or wife to go to another state to look for a job. You may be together at one point, but because you get transferred, you have to be separated.
Now, I think the recent economic realities is one issue that has caused many couples to stay apart in recent time. But how can this be managed? How can it be tackled?
Yeah, I remember when I spoke to a Kubos, the man and his wife. The man was living in Anambra, his wife was living in Abuja, and I remember he told me clearly that it wasn't very easy for him. It wasn't easy for his wife, so it wasn't their choice. And what he does is to make sure he calls over and over every day, and to make frequent visits to her.
Even more expensive.
It could also be a financial burden when you're living apart, of course. But maybe when they calculate it in the long run, the profit may be worse than the loss. So it's how do you manage? Try to talk every day. At least now there are modern communication gadgets. You can email, you can talk on phone, you can chat live, you can even video chat, so it's almost as if the person is with you. Again, there's also the option of relocating to where your partner is, if it's possible for you to get a job there, or go entrepreneurial. You can dump, if it was a government job or a white-collar job you were doing, you could dump it and start your own business where your partner is, so you can be together. So entrepreneurship could also help couples to stay together.
Moving on, trainees of the National Power Apprenticeship Scheme, NAPSAS, are in dilemma over their future in the power sector. This became evident when the youth took to the streets in protest over unpaid allowances and the silence from the Ministry of Power on the promise of absorbing them into the industry.
We were denied of 18,000 stipend to sustain us as far as the transport fare to our various training camp is concerned.
When I got this information, I keyed into it because it is in line with my field. I left all what I was doing because I want to be part and parcel of it.
Most of us here come from far and nigh. Most of us here have borrowed money to come from our various places of residence. Yes, you are owing us. And we are borrowing this money with the hope that we will be paid so that later we will reimburse.
There has been this issue of failed promises over and over again. Apart from the power sector, we have also seen much more protests like that of the nurses and all of that. What really is the problem?
You say it's unfortunate that not everybody who makes a promise gets to keep the promise. So that's why you have this kind of protest. Before these youths, these young graduate engineers took up the apprenticeship scheme with NAPSAS. They were promised all manner of stuff. They signed documents, they dropped their account numbers, and they were made very confident in the power sector, in the Ministry of Power, that after their training they will be absorbed into the electricity industry in particular. Unfortunately, nothing is happening now, and the youths on that particular day, they kept telling me all manner of stories about some of them dropping the little job they had before because they believed that the federal government was making a very solid promise to engage them. That was why they dropped their jobs before and underwent the apprenticeship scheme.
So would you say the authorities of the power sector actually played a fast one in this helpless youths?
Maybe it's not the first one. Maybe there's something they're not telling us, and that's why it's important to keep to be open to people when you have an agreement. Maybe there's a problem. Why don't they come out to explain the problem and make all the parties involved aware? Because the youth said that they promised over and over, and even 1 month, 2 months, 3 months they had not been paid. They discussed it with the coordinators of the program, and they were told emphatically that in 2 days' time they would get the payment. But 2 days passed, weeks passed, another month again, and still they had not gotten their stipend, which is in fact just 18,000 naira per month. So it's important that when promises are made, they should be kept. And if you cannot fulfill a promise, you are not forced to start a program, so that people don't begin to feel cheated, don't begin to lose their trust in government. And you know, this is public sector, and public sector is public trust. You have to maintain that trust. And then again, because they are youth, so maybe I should even talk about why it's important that more youth get involved. Self-employment, entrepreneurship. It's because so many people are unemployed and they keep waiting on government or public industries to absorb them. What if there are no jobs in the government? What if there are no jobs in all these sectors around? Can't you start something by yourself?
Or could you emphatically tell us what the officials of the ministry said?
Well, on that day, they said they were looking into the matter, and they were going to resolve it as soon as possible.
Well, we do hope they look into this matter as quickly as possible, because it's a matter of urgency, going by the new things happening in the country and all of that. But we shall now go into the projections of this new week. Nigerians will be joining the rest of the world to commemorate World Day to combat desertification and drought on June 17, with focus on attainment of food security for all through sustainable food system. Also Friday, June 20 will mark yet another World Refugee Day with theme "With Courage Let Us All Combine." Nigeria is one example of some of these refugees we're talking about, because we have a lot of IDPs now, no thanks to the current insurgency in the northeast. Could you actually tell us what those IDPs will be seeing this new week?
Well, it's the number of IDPs in Nigeria, and then Nigerian refugees in countries surrounding Nigeria, in Chad, in Cameroon. Some of them actually go across the border and they become refugees, and the ones that are displaced within the country remain IDPs here. There are so many now, and the situation sometimes seems to be getting better, and then it begins to get worse. And even the emergency management agencies have a lot of job on their hands. So far, it's difficult to say whether it's the emergency agencies have managed IDPs in Nigeria properly, because we visit some of the IDP camps here in Abuja at least, and we see the condition that IDPs live through. They are below minimal standards of taking care of people who need assistance. They are below minimal standards of helping refugees and IDPs. So it's difficult to say if their fates will get better this week, but we keep having hope in the public sector, in our public agencies, and then in private agencies too. Most of the times when you see people donate materials to IDPs, they are not public agencies, they are individuals, schools, organizations, good-hearted Nigerians who feel, oh, I have a little extra, let me take it to somebody who doesn't have so much. So, and I think as the theme is with courage, let us combine. We can combine our efforts to make sure that those who are passing through so much pain and who are dislocated from their communities, who have lost their homes, can find a home somewhere else. And not just finding a home, it's important that we also make all efforts to return them back to where they're coming from, because most of these people, when you speak to them in those Kuchingori, they tell you that they really want to go back home to where they come from, but they are afraid because they are not sure of the security situation in their home states. They are not sure, they don't want to go back and then be on the run again. So they are looking for somewhere safe. And if we can join hands together, if the government can expedite action in restoring peace in the Northeast, these IDPs would be very grateful, and the Nigerian refugees in other countries would also be very grateful and will be ready to go back to where they come from at AIT.
Stay tuned to AIT for these stories and more. We urge you to follow us on our Facebook page and Twitter handle on www.facebook.com/AIT Abuja and at AIT Abuja on Twitter. That's a reporter's diary on AIT. For my colleague and I, thanks for staying with us.